Hi friends, it's Julie, and today I'm here with my October-November wrap-up. Yes, I know I said earlier that I was going to post an October wrap-up, but that didn't end up happening, and by the time I actually had time to actually film one, it was already the middle of November, and to be honest, I haven't been reading very much, so I just thought I would just do a joined wrap-up. I will say, like disclaimer, that my month of October was full of mystery and thrillers and things like that, so you're going to get a lot of those in this video. But I'm really burnt out on that genre right now, so you will not be seeing probably any of those for a few months, but let's just get to the books. So the first book that I read during the month of October was The Ruins by Scott Smith. Anybody read this book with Katie from Life Between Words and Stephanie from That's What She Read. But this is a pretty popular horror novel that's about two couples that go vacationing in Mexico. They make some of their friends while they're down there. Then one day they decide to kind of go on this adventure and go to these old Mayan ruins. They end up being stuck on this hill. They're not allowed to leave, and there is this terrible thing that's up there that starts killing these people off one by one. So that's all I'm really going to say, because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But overall, this book was alright. It wasn't super scary. The thing that's killing the people isn't super believable, so that kind of lowered the scare factor for me. The writing was alright. It was a little slow in parts, but I think the thing that I really liked about this book was kind of watching the people go crazy, because as people started to die, that really started affecting everyone mentally, and so people started acting differently and they just kind of spiraled into madness. And so I think that was my favorite part about this book, which sounds really terrible, but it was kind of cool. I liked the different changes of the relationships, and you know, how people couldn't believe that, you know, their significant other was doing things and acting certain ways. But I feel like when you're put in this really terrible situation like that, that really brings out either the best or the worst in people. And it was actually funny, because while we were reading this book, there's this girl and she does a lot of stupid things, and I could identify with some of the stuff that she was doing in this book. But Stephanie and Katie were like, she was so stupid, I never would have done those things. And I was like, I probably would have. So it was definitely a fun buddy reading experience. And we actually continued on with our buddy reads, and we ended up buddy reading my first book during Spookathon, and that was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And this was actually my first Agatha Christie book. And I do plan on reading more. I'm sure that you guys have probably heard of this, but this is a very popular mystery, and it's about this group of people who are all invited to this island very mysteriously, and then they all start being killed off one by one. I'm noticing a little bit of a pattern here with these two books, but I really enjoyed this. I read this in two settings, and I hadn't figured out who the killer was by the end of it, so that was really fun. Looking back on it now that I know who the killer is, I could probably pick up, you know, on the little things here and there. I do plan on picking up some more Agatha Christie in the future. I have Murder on the Orient Express on my bookshelf right now, so I'll probably read that some point during the winter, because I feel like her books, or at least this one, was really cozy, like a warm, cozy mystery. So I feel like they're really good for the winter time. And I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, and I ended up giving The Ruins like 3.75 out of 5, if I hadn't said that already. And then the second book that I read during Spookathon was Intensity by Dean Koontz, and I'm pretty sure that this is my very first Dean Koontz book. I may have read one like a really long time ago, but I don't remember 100% on that. But I actually really enjoyed this. This was really one of the most intense thrillers I've ever read. It's a pretty long one. It's like over 400 pages, like 430 some pages, I think, but literally it starts from the very beginning, and there is no breathing room at all in this book. It's just intense scene after intense scene, just back to back to back, and I've never read a thriller like that. So it's very properly titled. But this book is about this main character. Her name is China, and at the very beginning of the book, she barely escapes getting away from this serial killer who murders all of these people. And so she kind of goes on this like quest to save this potential future victim of the serial killer. So throughout this book, we have her point of view, and then we also get the point of view of the serial killer. And It was really interesting. I can definitely see why people enjoy this book so much. And if you enjoy thrillers and serial killer thrillers and you've never read this, then I would definitely recommend picking it up. Like I said, the writing's a little mediocre. He repeats the word intense a lot in this book, which kind of annoys me, but still, this is in a whole other, yeah, I've just never read a thriller like this before. Then during Spookathon, I also read The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and this is a pretty popular ghost story, and it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. I was kind of let down a little bit because I had read some really good reviews on it. Well, here's the thing. On Goodreads, it doesn't have like the highest ratings, but all of the booktubers that I'm friends with that have read this book rated it really high. So I went into it with kind of high expectations, and maybe that's why it was a little bit of a letdown. I enjoyed the writing. I thought it was really beautiful, but I just didn't find it scary at all. So this book is about a man who is kind of looking back on this event that took place in his life and how that affected his life in the long term. And it was while he was working, I believe, for a law firm, and his boss sends him out to this little town where this woman has died to kind of get her affairs in order. And while he's out there, he has this like paranormal experience, and there were parts of it that were creepy, but I never felt scared while reading it. I don't know. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. I feel like if you don't typically like really scary things, but kind of want to read something that's a little bit creepy and you enjoy a ghost story, then you might really like it. And it's short. It's only like 160 pages. And like I said, the writing is really beautiful. So yeah, if that sounds like your cup of tea, then maybe you should check it out and then let me know what you think. So those were all of the books that I read during the month of October, and so now I'll get to the books that I read in November. And the first one was Punish the Sinners by John Saul, and I buddy read this book with Josh from Literary Gladiators, and I know I've talked about this like once or twice already on my channel, but I really actually enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, which I was really surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, just because I was getting so burnt out on this genre. But his writing style was really easy to read and really easy to get into. So this book is about a man named Peter, and he's a psychology teacher who takes this job in this really tiny town called Neilsville, and he's going to be the psychology teacher at this really strict Catholic school there. And when he arrives in the town, he starts getting this really bad feeling from everyone. He feels like something bad is going on here, and not soon after he starts working at the school, the teenage girls there start trying to kill themselves, and some of them succeed, and they start kind of putting the blame on Peter, like it's his fault, he's doing something at the school. And so Peter is trying to prove that he's not doing anything and trying to expose what is going on in this town. So it's kind of the general synopsis of the book, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. It took turns that I wasn't expecting. The writing was really easy to read, like I said, and I really enjoyed that it didn't have a happy ending. I've been in the mood for non-happy ending books lately, I guess, but I will definitely pick up some more John Saul in the future. And I actually am kind of surprised that he's not talked about more on here on people who read a lot of horror novels, because I looked up his books on Goodreads and most of them have pretty good reviews, like almost like 4 stars. So I will definitely check some more out. And Josh was really fun to buddy read this book with. He reads a lot of horror, and so it was fun kind of getting his input on it while we're reading it, because horror is a genre that I want to read more of, but I haven't been reading a lot of it. I'm just kind of, picking it up here and there, but I will definitely pick up some more John Saul in the future. And then I also read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This was our second book club pick for the month. Dark Matter is a very, very popular book right now. This is a sci-fi thriller that came out just a few months ago, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't quite as blown away, I feel like, as some people who read it. So this is about a man named Jason. I believe his name is Jason. It's been a few weeks since I've read it. But one night, after having dinner with his wife, he goes to meet this old friend for drinks. and he is stalked and followed after leaving the bar, and he's pretty much kidnapped and knocked unconscious. And when he wakes up, he's in this completely different place, surrounded by people he doesn't know that are all welcoming him back. And he has no idea what's going on. He goes searching for his wife, but his wife is not his wife here. His son is not his son, and his whole world is completely different. And so he has to figure out which is right, what world is his world, what is going on. He's just trying to make sense of it and trying to ultimately get back to the life that he had before. So the whole idea of the book is super interesting, and overall I enjoyed it. The writing was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular. They're going to make this into a movie, I believe, and it reads like it would be a perfect movie. I don't know. I don't know if I went into it with really high expectations, because a lot of my friends who've been reading this just absolutely loved it, and I did enjoy it. I flew through it. I read it in like 2 days, I believe. There was just something about it that just kind of bothered me. I think it was that overall the writing seemed really simple, but then they would throw in these really mind-boggling scientific stuff. I mean, it wasn't done over the top. It wasn't even as much as like The Martian, but I felt like the writing was so simplistic that when you added this into it, it was just kind of like a jar while you're reading it. I did like that it really makes you think about things and puts, you know, different things into perspective. And I really loved the driving force behind the story about him, you know, trying to find his way back. But overall, I felt like I didn't enjoy it quite as much as everyone else. I still ended up giving it like 4 out of 5 stars. And I would definitely recommend it because it's a super fun read. Just don't be expecting this great like literary work of art or anything like that. It's definitely more of a plot-driven, fun, fast-paced story. And then the last book that I finished for the month of November was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. And I really enjoyed this book. This was a book that I picked up for Nonfiction November and was the only nonfiction book that I read this month, but you know, so it goes sometimes. But it was fantastic. I've always had a little bit of morbid curiosity in me, and so I was captivated by this book from the very beginning. It's about this woman, Caitlin. You know, it's kind of like, I guess, a memoir of when she first started working at a crematory. It was like her first job in the business, and she was in charge of burning the bodies. And the whole experience kind of made her take a deeper look or a bigger look at the way we treat our dead compared to other cultures, and how, you know, things have changed throughout, you know, the years, throughout the centuries, and how disconnected we have become from this aspect of life. I mean, it's inevitable. Everyone is going to die, but we have just disconnected ourselves so far from this. And why? You know, that's what she's kind of looking at throughout this book, and it's full of some really interesting facts, and it was just really enjoyable. And I love that it was broken up into little stories, so you could just kind of pick it up and read it. You know, it was like 10, 15 pages, and you've read through a little story, and then you could put it down, and it wasn't like a novel. It was just broken up into little sections, and I really enjoyed that. But it's very thought-provoking, and yeah, I would definitely recommend this book if it sounds even remotely interesting to you. I don't think that you'll be disappointed. And she has a really great sense of humor, which was really fantastic. I actually laughed out loud multiple times during this book, and then there were other parts where I wanted to cry. It was just really fantastic. I gave this probably 4.5 or maybe 5 stars. It was really good, and I'm really glad that I read it. So those were all of the books that I finished the last few months. Hopefully December is a better reading month for me, but please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you've been reading, if you've read anything really good that I should add to my TBR, or if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. But I think that's it for the day, guys, and I'll see you all again very soon. Happy reading. Bye!